Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. Thank you for joining me, and I am Tony Mitch. I am the host of this podcast, and we are your number one podcast for bringing you stories around death, dying, and grief, and all the messiness that comes with it. With some amazing people who not only walk the walk, but talk the talk, and out here doing some amazing things. And today, I have a very exciting guest for you guys. She's out here doing some amazing work with kids, helping them process and express their grief and all of their little ways that they don't understand just yet. And so now, before I bring her up here, I would like to say that if this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor, head on over to that YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. And as always, this is a live stream event, so please put your questions and comments in the comment section. We'll be sure to answer them as we go. Before I bring her up here, my last thing, this is for educational purposes only. All right. Now, without further ado, guys, help me welcome my next guest, Jennifer. Jennifer, how you doing?
Good. Thank you, Tony, for having me on today. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited as well. Thank you for joining me. Now, before we get started, introduce yourself. Tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
Sure. So I'm Jen Ginty, and I am from Boston, Massachusetts. And I created a pull-apart buddy to help kiddos and adults alike to better cope with their big feelings. I myself live with complex PTSD and major depressive disorder from childhood trauma. And, I was frustrated with my symptoms while I was in a group therapy session. And I said, I wish I had a monster that I could just rip apart and throw across the room, bang against the furniture. And people in the group were like, yeah, you should have that. So, I'm not a, seamstress. I'm not a tailor in any way, but I went home and I put together this ragtag like monster. And I made their arms, legs, and head of Velcro so that I could rip them apart. And the first doll that I made, I named them PTSD Pete for my own symptoms for the diagnosis that I held, which was the complex PTSD.
Nice. And I love that. I love the fact I started thinking about that. I was like, dude, there's sometimes where I can use like a little Moody Monster where I could just rip apart and kick across the room and stuff like that, but then be able to go back and put them back together. But me, with my little character, I would probably put the arms on his forehead and have the legs hanging out his side. He just wouldn't be right after I got done with him, Jennifer. It just wouldn't be right. And then I'd have to sit there and look at him and go, you know what? It's just one of those days today, and things like that. But I love the fact that you do that, and to be able to help kids, right? Because, although I work with adults and things like that, and I tell you, having something like that would be very beneficial for them because we're adults, we're messy, right? And sometimes we need to just go punch something without having to go to jail.
Yep.
I'm sure, right? But when it comes down to children, it's really important that they have an avenue to be able to express themselves, right? Because children don't express themselves like we do. They really don't, right? And so now let's backtrack a little bit, right? What were some of the things that got you to where you are?
Sure. Yeah. Let me give you my background. So I grew up until the age of 14 with my abuser in our home. I also had two older brothers and my mother were there. When I was 14, my older brother told a trusted adult what was happening in our family. And they took our abuser, my father, from the home. And I think a lot of people think that when an abuser is taken from a child, that the child it's okay. Now things are better. Things are, they're no longer going to be traumatized. But there are a lot of other ways that children are traumatized after, an abuser is taken from the home. And for me, that was it was a court trauma that I had to go through. They wanted to put my abuser in prison. But I think that for the most part, they wanted us to be talking heads. They wanted us to stand there and, just accept what they wanted to do with the charges, that kind of thing. And they wanted us to say specific things rather than talking about the real things that had happened to us.
Mhm.
And so, they, at one point, they made me go in front of a grand jury and talk about very, very intimate uh, assaults that I had had as a child. And, by the end of the whole court thing, my abuser went to prison. He only went to prison for 4 years, and then he came out and abused again, abused other children.
Mm.
And so there was also that trauma that came on top of it as well as, now my abuser is out and I can't stop him from hurting others because, I myself was still very young at that time. And I chose to say not yet to looking at my trauma and starting my healing journey. I
Right.
said, not yet. I'm in college now. And then it was not yet, I have a career. And then finally it was not yet. I have little children. How could I possibly take time from my life and theirs, these beautiful little souls, and work on myself? And I became a people pleaser very, very early in life. I took care of so many people. So that was kind of the role that I fell into. And then years and years later, I had to close down a boutique that I had opened and gone into. Uh, I went into bankruptcy, and I feel as though I lost my identity in that time.
Yeah.
It was at that moment that my brain said, "Right now, you need to do this now. You need to start this journey, and if not for yourself, for the people that you love." So, that was the point where I realized that I needed to start this healing in order to live a better life and to better understand the, choices I make, the way that I live. I mean, with complex PTSD, it's different from PTSD in the sense that it's something when someone has been steeped in trauma, such as childhood abuse or domestic violence or homelessness, those type of things, it changes your body chemistry. It changes the neurons in your brain so that you're in a hyper state. You're hyper aroused, you're hyper vigilant. So I needed to start the healing process so that I could change those parts of me so I could live a better life.
Right. And as you was talking, right, I was thinking about the the multi the multitude of kids out there right now that's looking for someone like yourself, right? And so many other people that are working with children because I think the language of children when they're hurt is very misunderstood. Kids are known for being practical jokers. They're known for not always telling the truth and things like that. And as grown-ups, I don't think sometimes I honestly feel sometimes we kind of push it under the rug, right? Oh no, they're just playing, and like they're always doing this and this that, and another. Where they don't understand that in the little child's mind, their reality is this huge place of just um just curiosity, right? Wanting to explore, wanting to do things, and so maybe they don't know how to express or use their words the appropriate way. But the one thing I have found, and please let me know if I'm wrong, they do know when people hurt them, right? Because they don't like that. Children don't like that, but yet we dismiss it. Why is that?
I think that people don't take children seriously for the most part. I think the majority of people don't believe children when they talk about their experiences. They think that they're maybe overreacting to things. So when my children were very little, when they were babies and toddlers and stuff, I used to call them my little cavemen because they were born with all of this emotion, all of these things that they just didn't understand and didn't know how to control. And so I think it's really important that people realize that children were born with all of these feelings that we all have, and they're all valid. It's
Mhm.
just that they don't know how to cope. And you know what? We don't really either. When I was a kid, it was always, hide your feelings, don't show them. Don't be an angry girl. Don't make your grandmother upset with your sadness or uncomfortable, right?
Mhm.
We weren't even taught how to better cope with our emotions. So, how can we help children do that when we ourselves haven't had our own, we haven't built our own coping skill toolbox,
Right.
right?
Yeah. And for those individuals out there, I want to throw another, because I want to throw another definition of grief that sometimes people don't pay attention to. And I'm glad that you said, you know, how you push your grief apart and said, not right now. Then eventually it came back and said, no, you're going to deal with this right now,
Mhm.
or else, right? Type thing, pretty much in a whole lot of, in some smaller words, your grief was like, nope, you're going to deal with it or else. And I just started thinking about this. Well, I've been thinking about this for quite some time, and it's a term, compacted grief, right? So
Mhm.
when you have years and years of trauma, of abuse, of loss, and suppression, for the most part, right? Most people would say, oh, no, the grief is trapped into the body. Yeah, it is, but it's compacted, right? Because, for one, from the time that it's probably happened, if it happened at a very early age, it's trapped inside that little body. And eventually, so as you get older, the grief doesn't really go anywhere. It's still compacted into that little ball. And everything else is being compiled on top of it, because now you built some sort of safety net around it to keep it from coming out, right? Because, when you get told, hey, don't be upsetting people or this or another, you learn how to push that in the middle of your body, and everything else kind of grows around it, which allows you to be able to put on a pretty good looking mask in front of everyone. And
Mhm.
so, when we compile all of those things in, and again, this is just a thought, but the word compacted grief, would that pretty much describe, um, that for the most part?
I think compacted grief is a great way to look at an aspect of trauma, and
Mhm.
especially complex PTSD. We don't like to sit with our uncomfortable emotions, and grief, sadness, that is probably the biggest emotion that we hate to sit with. So we avoid it. We avoid it and we build onto it because we can't get ourselves to sit with that sadness, that grief, and let it pass. Because all emotions, we feel them and they do eventually pass, but they're so uncomfortable that you don't want to wait for that. So,
Mhm.
like you said, that compacted grief is that you're piling it on each time that you can't sit with it and allow it to pass.
Mhm. I like that. I definitely like that. And which leads me to my next question, right? Because when we're thinking about that, I'm thinking about the little kid walking around, banging stuff all over the place with this little moody monster and ripping the arms off and swinging it at people like, I'll beat you with the arm, and saying, and kick the head across the. I can just see the little kid doing that, right? And that makes me laugh, but because I understand it, right? You know what I'm saying? And just to watch them doing that, I think will be very beneficial for a lot of people to understand, the depthness of how children and how adults grieve and deal with certain things, right? And which leads me to my next question of saying, when the Moody Monster is being in use in these different areas, do you think a lot of times, if we pay attention, people are ripping apart the parts of themselves that hurt the most?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I saw Moody when I created them. I saw them as an extension of myself. a
Okay.
way to, rip apart those difficult emotions, whether it be anger or sadness or fear, that I could take that apart, the actual feeling, take it apart and then be able to sit with it and put it back together again. Because
Mm.
when I first created Moody, that the tearing apart, that was the biggest bonus of it. That was the reason for it, the purpose for Moody. But the actual purpose for them is for you to be able to put them back together again. It's an amazing communication tool for children and parents or adults in general, because a child is signaling that they're in distress. So they take it apart. The adult understands what's happening, and then they're able to sit down with that child, put Moody back together again, and talk about what happened and what we can do next time to better cope. Let's build a coping skill that works for you.
Right.
And, I think it's really important that we all build our own toolbox of coping skills. So Moody is kind of like a kickoff point for adults to be able to help kids to figure out what makes them feel better in the moment.
Right. And now we have a really good question up here, and it was something that I was thinking about as well. Thank you for this. And then and tell me what you think about this. What those did it ever worry you that it could give a kid the thought of that balance is okay? Um,
No, oh yeah. I mean, I can see that, but absolutely not, because Moody is a safe space for that to
mm,
happen. A
okay.
lot of therapists will tell people to, punch a pillow, throw things that are soft and not, something that could harm you. It's just like that. It's basically a tool that, I even created a coloring book with Moody that says, this is my purpose. It doesn't hurt me because this is what I'm here for.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it isn't promoting violence. It's promoting a safe way to get out those emotions.
No, I'm glad that you brought that up because I know there may be people that may be thinking that same way, right? Like, and I do, and I'll put this one up there. It's an act of destruction in times of anger, yes. But I do believe what Jennifer is saying is that it's different though, right? You know what I'm saying? Because it's an outlet. And I've known Lincoln for quite some time. So I want to run this scenario by you, Lincoln, and give me a comment in the comment section. Tell me what you think. When we were younger, our anger was expressed through fighting and things like that because of the way that we were wired, right, in the environment. Whereas the same sense, Moody Monster is a safe place for people to be able to express that without the act of hurting someone else. Think about this exhaustion of energy, right? You know what I'm saying? So, anger, sorrow, depression, all of those different things also have an act associated with it. So, if you had an outlet that didn't involve another individual, it gave a release, and in the same sense, it released that endorphin of helping you to calm down. So, when said situation passed, so did the thought, right? You know what I'm saying? Because you was able to freely express yourself.
Right. And if you think about it, there are so many tools out there now there for adults, like smash it rooms,
Right.
where
Yeah.
people can go in, and I've been to those. My therapist loves it for herself and her husband. They
Mhm.
go that it's a place to get out that energy that is just building and building, and it's making your body like, need to get
Right.
out that anxious energy, that angry energy, those types of things. It's considered a tool
Mm.
rather than, I don't know how you'd put it, but it is. It's a tool. Like people use stuffed animals in that sense too. A lot of therapists use stuffed animals to communicate with children as like a third person to help children to better talk about things that have happened to them.
Mm. I think it's age. These tools are age appropriate, right? You know what I'm saying? So I love the fact that you mentioned the smash rooms, right? because adults can associate it with, they can relate to that a lot better, you know what I'm saying, than anything else. Like it would be freaking hilarious if you gave a kid a big old metal baseball bat and set them inside the room, right? You know, and told them just to go balls to the wall, right? Go smash up. You would go in there, and the most that probably be done maybe be a table pushed over, an end table pushed over, maybe some blankets pushed off the tables, off the bed, or something like that. Whereas adults can look at that and go, you know what? I'm going to destroy this, right? And so I can definitely see the benefits of that, where child, you know, is age appropriate. You know, it's the same thing when it comes down to helping people understand their actions, right? You know what I'm saying? You're not going to talk to an adult the same way that you talk to a child. You're not going to talk to a child the same way that you talk to a teenager, et cetera, right? You know what I'm saying? The language needs to be there. So I think that the therapy needs to fit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay.
And you know, I have Moody's in classrooms, in counselors' rooms, in therapy offices. They're all really happy having Moody there, because it's a way for a child to step away from, you know, if they're in school, step away from class, get out all of that that feeling, that need to do something physical, and then they're able to come back to the class and concentrate again.
Right. And now, you know, and
You know what? Also, let me show Moody so that they have a better idea of what Moody looks like.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, you know, a cuddly, you know, monster, but they're here specifically to be able to rip apart,
And
you know, and put them back together again.
See, I love that. I love that. You know, and I knew what Lincoln was getting at. That's why I wanted to put this up there, because he was talking about his own personal experiences, right? You know, and that's why I said I've been knowing Lincoln for quite some time. We've pretty much have a very, very similar background and things like that. So, you know, we wasn't the healthiest when it came down to dealing with trauma and, you know what I'm saying, dealing with, you know, anger and things like that. So we use walls, we use doors, we use other people, right? You know, and so he's absolutely right. I wish we could. I wish we had some of those, because I tell you what, Moody would be well used on so many different levels. But like, hey, Moody, take that, right? But see, then I would get creative and create like a little Velcro board to where I could just
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like those what is it? They look, you can throw them at the bullseye, you know, like the balls that you can throw at the bullseye against the wall, those type of things. Yeah, it's similar. And, you know, I've had them. I actually just recently went to a autism center last week and brought Moody for a story time, because I love doing story times with kids. I read books about big emotions. And it was amazing. They were completely silent while you were reading this book. And they all wanted to hug Moody and feel Moody and hear the ripping and that kind of thing. So it has that, it has the usage of ripping them apart and stuff, but there's also other things that help children with it, like kids who don't have verbalization, that are nonverbal. It helps them to, you know, communicate that they're upset, or, you know, that they just need a cuddle or something like that, something soft to hold. They like the sound of the Velcro. They love the feel of the body, that kind of thing. So it's it can be more than just a tool to get emotions out as well.
Right. I think it could also be a place to where people can safely talk, right? You know, one of the things that and this brought me back. First, I want to say thank you, Grief Support over on Instagram. They made a comment that Moody was very cute and things like that. So I love the fact that they're acknowledging those. But it also, you know, I remember when my son, when he was around 3 years old, we was doing supervised visitations. And I didn't, you know, at this time, I didn't know what was going on inside of his household. And so, you know, we would do play therapy. And so, and I really hated doing this, but I needed to see for myself, right? So there was times where, the one thing I always told my son, like, if you need help, come and let me know. I will help you, right? And so what the therapist did, the therapist was like, tell him that, and then don't help him and see what he does, right? And what they were doing is that they were causing a trigger response to see they were putting two and two together, right? So they realized that there was something else going on, not around me, but inside of the home. And so and when it happened, oh, it was not good, right? It was not good because he was like, Dad, you told me that you was going to help me, right? And after a while, he became frustrated. He was like, Dad, you told me that you was going to help me. And so instead of him calming down, he started picking up stuff and throwing it. And he was like, you told me that you was going to help me. Why did you lie to me? And he was only like 3 years old. And this is the way that he's speaking now, right? And so now I have this lady in my ear, and I'm upset because I'm like, that's not what we do. Like, I don't want to be the cause of this, right? You know what I'm saying? But they were like, it needed to happen. And that's when I found out that his mom was physically and verbally abusing him,
Oh,
right? Him and his sister.
yeah.
And he was responding because she was doing the same thing. And now here I am, his father, the one that's supposed to protect him, and, you know what I'm saying, and be there to keep him safe. I am now doing the same things that's happening. And so that's how everything began to reverse itself. And it made me start thinking, because I do run across a lot of children. And, I'm surrounded by other nonprofits as well. And we've talked about similar things like expression when it comes down to not only children, but adults. And what does that look like? And what they found was that in adults will revert back to the moments of their abuse and their trauma and their losses and things like that. And what they do, they hopscotch through time. And sometimes they go back and forth, and you have to be able to sit with them and ride it out and be able to pinpoint when they in a moment of stillness in their traumas, to be able to start the healing process.
Yeah, it's interesting. My therapist and we work with internal family systems.
Right.
So that basically says, there are parts of us that are there to protect us. There are parts that, are like, I have a little Jen from when I was little and young, and I was going through the abuse, and then there are other parts of you that want to protect you. And so those parts you need to learn to understand and listen to and give time to, so that they can open up to what is their fear. Why are they doing what they're doing to protect you? So, there's that memory of little Jen. We constantly talk about little Jen because that is the part of me that was harmed, that was abused throughout my childhood, and needing to hold space for little Jen so that I can heal.
Nice. And now leads me to my next question, because it got me to thinking, when children and adults express themselves, is it very similar? Do children isolate as well? Right? Like, because I know as adults, we have a tendency of wanting to get away from certain things, so we isolate to keep from being a burden to other people. Is it similar to children as well? Or is there a lot of differences and things like that?
I think children are taught to do that. I don't think that that's their, what they feel. They've been taught that by the way that adults react to them. And that's how we learn to isolate, because we were taught not to show our feelings. We had to hide our feelings. So we had to isolate to let the feelings do what they needed to do and not show them to others.
I like that. I definitely like that, because there are a lot of similarities of taught isolation and taught expression or non-expression as well. So
Well,
I could definitely understand that.
yeah, well, if you think about it, what's the thing that happens when a child gets hurt? They immediately run to their parent or their trusted adult to get,
Mhm.
empathy from them. And if the adult isn't going to give that to them, they're going to learn sooner or later not to go to that adult to get what they need.
Just like everything I've done, I totally agree. We learn how to keep ourselves safe, right? And as crazy as it sounds, especially for some of us who may have come from a little bit more rougher backgrounds, things like that, where violence was key to everything, survival of the fittest type thing, and when I say this, it's something that I've had to learn too. It sounds crazy, but we learn to keep ourselves safe.
Mhm.
We learn to go, hey, I can't trust this person. So, what I'm saying? I'm going to do what I can in order to put myself in a position that if something was to happen, I can easily protect myself, right? But also learn how to justify my actions just because, and not really understand that these can be and are trauma responses, right? Like yourself, complex PTSD. A lot of people associate with PTSD, right? You know what I'm saying? Because we often associate it with veterans
Mhm.
and things like that. But it's just, and I want to say that complex PTSD can be associated with complex grief on so many different levels, right? What are your thoughts on that?
So I think it might be good to talk about what the difference between PTSD and complex PTSD is.
Yes, please,
Um,
please.
I was told by this example was amazing. It came from a social worker that I knew. So imagine that you're in a really bad car accident. Maybe you got hurt or someone got hurt in this accident. And after that, you have a real fear of driving again or getting back into a car. That's
Mhm.
PTSD,
Yeah.
but as you go, you learn to overcome that fear, right? And you can get into the car, sit in the car for a few minutes, maybe get behind the wheel for a few minutes and not turn the car on. You can continue to make steps to get through that fear and that anxiety that you have because of this car crash. The difference between that and complex PTSD is that, you're living in trauma consistently
Mhm.
for a
Oh,
period of time. So that's childhood abuse, that's domestic violence, that's homelessness, that's, being a veteran at war. Those are things that you've been steeping in that trauma. You're living it consistently day to day.
right.
So your body chemistry completely changes to adapt to protect you. Your neurons change to protect you. And that's where that hyper state comes in for complex PTSD, the hypervigilance. That
Mhm.
kind of thing is what has been built off of the steady trauma that you've been living through.
Right, right.
So it's a different there is a big difference to it because, PTSD can be maybe a series of things that have happened to you, but not in the sense that you live it day to day.
Okay. And I'm glad that you brought that up because what I started thinking, and tell me what you think about this, when like anything that you go through trauma wise, right? You know what I'm saying? PTSD, it's a rewiring of the nervous system, right? And what it sounds like with complex PTSD, there's also a disconnect of the synapses,
Mhm.
and so there's times where and I was just talking to someone, there's parts of yourself that you can't remember,
Mhm.
right? Because of the disconnect and the rewiring. So it's pretty much rewired in a different what your nervous system rewire itself in order to redirect those emotions in a more safety net type of way, right? Because the brain is wired to protect you from said things, right? To keep you from having a nervous breakdown or going crazy for the most part, right? And we hear those expressions all the time, saying like this person is crazy, like no, they're going through something right now. Um, but also what it sounds like is that when it comes down to using tools like Moody Monster and things like that, it is a way to reconnect those synapses and begin to push things out to the forefront so it can be readdressed, right, in order to heal, but also learn how to better navigate that world in a different way.
Yeah. The brain is an amazing thing.
Right.
It
Yes.
really is, because it does do that. It does create new pathways with their neurons in order for you to be able to adapt to your environment. And this has been happening since the very beginning of man. Our brains will change and create new pathways to allow our bodies to know what to expect.
Right. Right. Okay.
So with a let's say someone living like child abuse or domestic violence, their brain waves, their neurons are creating new paths to teach themselves, their bodies and their brains, their minds, to be adapted to violence.
Hmm.
And, it takes a lot for those neurons to switch back. You can do that. That's the wonderful thing about the brain, is that you can create new pathways all the time. It's not an old dog, new trick. It's a constant. Our brain is always able to do this.
Okay. It's just understanding how it works.
Yeah. So there are tools to help people with complex PTSD to
Mhm.
rewire their brains. And one of them is called EMDR.
I know I'm very familiar.
Yes, yes, and I use that with my therapist because it allows your brain to connect in a different way, and it's really crazy how it does it. It's basically a light bar that has this light that goes back and forth, and your eyes follow it, and then, you take a breath and you consider how you're feeling in the moment.
Hmm.
And if there's, a visual that you can use, or something that you're saying in your mind, then you go back to the light bar and it eventually starts to change the stress levels, brings them down to an appropriate level. And people with complex PTSD do not live on the same stress levels as normal people.
Right.
And I'm not saying normal, I mean,
That,
neurotypical people,
yeah,
neurotypical people.
your
Yeah,
average person, but then
right.
that's a complex statement in itself. Like, what are you basing what are you basing
Nothing is normal.
right? Nothing is ever normal, right? Because
No,
what may seem normal to you and I may not seem normal to the next person, right? You know
no,
what
I
I'm saying?
think normal needs to be cut as a word to use when it talks to mental health.
Yes, yes, yes. And people define their normal as we grow, like and that's a that's a that's a conversation in itself, right? You know, what I'm
Mhm.
saying when you actually think about it, like, yeah, no, we really don't want to get into that one, right? You know, what I'm saying that's a long conversation right there.
Mhm.
To be variables, um, but now with Moody Monster and the work that you do, you you help so many kids across the world. What,
I'm trying. Yeah.
right. And so you ship out Moody Monster all over the place, right? And
Mhm.
and you go and talk with people, and you wrote a book that went along with it, correct?
Little coloring book that goes with it. Yeah,
Okay.
and I'm working on books that can go along with Moody too, talking about building coping skills,
Mhm.
and how to, better understand when you're feeling sad or scared or angry.
Right. And how did you get into what was the idea that came to your mind? Like, kids need Moody Monster. They need to. People need this, right? And then you got it to ship now. What was the aha moment where you said, you know what, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, it was when I was using Pete on a regular basis. My PTSD Pete, the very first Moody, I was realizing that I was feeling relief
Hmm.
after pulling them apart, not, feeling like it's all pent up, and being afraid to be physical about my feelings.
Right.
And, when my oldest son was little, he had a lot of behavioral issues. And we used to call him the Tasmanian devil because when he would get really upset, he would get physical. He would throw things. He would hit things. He would bite things. He'd bite people. I'd have to keep my younger son safe in another room at times. And I wish I had a Moody, because what happens to children when they do this on a regular basis, when they have their blow-ups, is they go into a shame spiral.
Mm.
They feel badly about what they've done, and they cry about that as well. They get upset about that I can't believe I did this and I hurt mommy, or I hurt my brother, or something like that. And after a while, when these children continue to go through shame spirals, they start to think of themselves as bad people. The shame from that turns toxic. So that's what toxic shame is when you begin to believe that you're a bad person and not that what had happened was inappropriate.
And that, as you were saying that, and I was adding into it in my mind, like that's where the overwhelmness comes from. That's where the anxiety comes from. That's where the overexcitement, saying of going, ooh, and the deep embedded emotions associated with that, the shame, the guilt, the sadness, right? It's nature versus nurture type thing. And that's, and I could be wrong. That was just something I was thinking about in my head, like nature versus nurture, right? Kids often express their environment just in a different way, so to speak, right? And so, yeah, thank you for that. Now, I'm excited to talk about this part right here. How many Moody Monsters have you sent down so far?
I've been, it's about 100 now. I had just received my first large order. So I've been, busy getting them out to people. And I also, one of my social missions is to donate these dolls to kids in need. So I take a portion of every order that I create and I donate them to first responders and social workers and, medical treatment centers, so that kids who are in trauma, like in house fires, or, who are going into foster care or having cancer treatments, they can have a buddy to hold on to that they can use to get out that emotion when they need to.
Right. And you also offer them to adults as well.
Oh yeah. I have so many adults who use Moody.
Yeah, I'm just asking for a friend,
Oh yeah, no. My lawyer, so my trademark lawyer, she has one, and she's like, I use it for Zoom meetings all the time.
Does she remember to turn the camera off?
I think she does it under the camera. Yep.
I can only imagine, like, I'm laughing because in my head I can see that I can only imagine the camera not being off and they be over there like, and people are like, hey, we can see you, and all of a sudden you're like, oh.
It's kind of like those funny videos where people are like in their underwear and they get up and forget they're in their underwear and everybody on the Zoom meeting sees them.
Oh my God. Look, we're not even going to start with that one. I saw one time where I think the girl forgot that she was on Zoom and her boyfriend came into the room.
Oh no.
Yeah, he didn't have on any clothes.
Oh no.
And she thought that she turned off the camera and the mic. Yeah, because she saw him and was like, oh, and yeah. Zoom can be a good tool when it's used the right way. Okay. But there's some things that people don't need to see. No,
nope.
Not at all. So Anybody out there, if you're ever on a Zoom meeting and something like that happens, please make sure your camera and your mic is off. Please.
Please.
For the rest of us, please, just for the rest of us.
We don't want to see that. We don't want to see that.
No. Which leads me, that is freaking hilarious. So now leads me to my next question with you. If a person wanted to get a Moody Monster, how could they go about doing something like that?
Yeah, they can go onto my website. It's MyMoodyMonster.com. And there are a bunch of different packages, actually. So I have an individual set, which is one Moody, one backpack. They come with a backpack so that if you don't want to put Moody back together again, just put them in the backpack and, they're ready to roll. And then the coloring book comes with it. And I also have a classroom set, which comes with 25 coloring books, and the office set comes with 10. You can purchase more coloring books because they're fun. They really are. One of my really good friends, she created the logo and the coloring book, and she's just an amazing artist. It's really, really cute. And and you can also donate one as well. You can go onto the site and choose to donate a Moody. If you don't need one for yourself, they can go to a child in need.
Mm-hmm. And for anybody out there that's looking to help you get Moody Monster out there, would they go to your website and connect with you that way as well?
Yeah, they can email me at jen@mymoodymonster.com. I'd be happy to talk with them. I'm always looking for ways to get Moody out to kids, to teenagers, to just about anyone who needs a buddy.
I love that. Which now leads me to my next question, as we begin to wrap this up and everything, because I know you're busy. I got to jump off and jump on another one as well. Mm-hmm. These days never stop,
Nope, it's always going.
Always going.
That's a whole other podcast.
You know what? This is why I shave, and then I get in. Yeah, these silver hairs is just getting out of control now. And this is why you see I got bald spots. So
that's okay.
About that one, yeah. So how can people find you?
They can find me on most of the socials. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. I'm on TikTok and LinkedIn. And they can find me also on my own podcast. I created a podcast because I was talking about my own healing journey and realized there are so many other people who have had similar journeys like I have, where they've held off on doing this because of out of fear or timing or whatever it may be. And, they choose that right now moment comes to them and they get on to their journeys. So the name of that podcast is When Not Yet Becomes Right Now.
I love that. And people can go there and support that as well. Rachel says she loves the headset. She has this. Are those Beats?
No. They're actually not. I don't think they're anything like really special.
No, those are pretty cool.
One audio.
Okay, I like those. I love the colors. I love the way that. This whole time I was sitting here looking like, I need to get me one of those,
And I'm a pink person, so I love pink and everything.
I was kind of noticing the background. I saw the pink on the wall. I saw the pink pillow, and then I saw that, and then the hair. The hair kind of gives it away, so you can't really hide it either.
Yeah, it's red or pink for me all the time.
Yeah, Rachel says they go well with your hairstyle, and you know what I'm saying, and she's just saying that you're out here killing it.
Thank you.
And again, before I let you go, pull Moody Monster up once again and show people who Moody Monster is and everything.
This is Moody. This is our guy. Let's see.
Moody Monster.
Yep, you can rip them apart. I took years to find the stickiest Velcro I possibly could.
Nice.
Yeah, that's what took so long. But then this is the backpack that it comes with. So there's a backpack that you can put them in and you can use for anything else you want. And this is the coloring book.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Definitely, people go support her. Go check out, get a Moody Monster. If you know what I'm saying, if you're looking for something just to take apart, to get that anger out there, to have something to help comfort you, help navigate this world and things like that. Moody Monster, yeah, I definitely have to get me one of those because there's times where I just want to,
And also, I forgot about this. If you use the code POD15, you can get 15% off your entire purchase.
And I did put those links down below, right? So go in there, check it out, please, and show your support. If you know anybody, if you would like to donate a Moody Monster to someone or to an organization, please, you know what I'm saying, go and, ask her how you can go about doing that. Want some book? Thank you for tuning in. Hello there, my friend. I just had her on yesterday, and we was talking about something similar. Well, another great individual to connect with if you ever get the chance to.
Oh, I'd love to.
And with that being said, I have one more question for you before I let you go.
Sounds good.
If you had a superpower, what would it be?
It's so funny. I was telling someone the other day that my hypervigilance is a superpower because I love horror movies. I grew up with horror movies. I absolutely love them. And I don't jump scare. Like, I never jump scare. It's because of that hypervigilance. So I consider it my superpower.
Love that. I love it. I think horror movies are funny. I really do. A lot of people are like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I was like, man, that is freaking hilarious. You have no idea. Did you not see him kick his head off his shoulders?
Oh, yeah.
Like, if you knew someone that can do that, would you really mess with them?
Right.
No.
You know what? You have to go see The Monkey. It's out now. I just went with my son, and it is the most hilarious movie. It was based off a Stephen King short story, but the movie it's serious. It's weird, but every murder is hilarious.
See, I'm gonna have to go check that out. I don't know about you, but I have to ask this question. What sort of horror movies do you like? Do you like monster movies like Michael Myers? Do you like Freddy Krueger? Or like, you know what I'm saying, like the ones like, oh no, don't go in the scary house in the forest.
Okay, so I'll give you my top 3. So my number 1 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, no, you didn't.
Yep, because it's uncomfortable from the very beginning to the very end. It's so strange and unusual. It's just like constantly got you on edge. So I love that. Texas Chainsaw Massacre was my first. Evil Dead 2 is my second, and that's the house in the woods, the Necronomicon, and it's also very funny. And let's see, my third would be The Exorcist. So those are like, it's the haunted house, it's the monster, and it's the religious, weird, like possession type stuff.
See, you had me up until The Exorcist, right? I know movies right there. Those are the one movies I would look at and be like, yeah, nope.
Not for me.
Chainsaw Massacre, I love that one for the simple fact of, and here's something that people don't know about that was actually based around a true story.
Yes.
It was based on a family of cannibals, and with the one son that killed all kinds of people, and they would eat them. That's why people never found them, and they would feed the rest of the people to the pigs and things like that. So be careful about who farms you go to. You may not want to do that. But the Evil Dead, that you're right, that one was just funny. So I have my top. I love werewolf movies, right? And my top werewolf movies would be, I think the first one would be the original Howling. That came out in the 80s, things like that. Love that one. The second one would be Dog Soldiers.
Yes. Have you seen that? Yes, I have.
Freaking amazing, right? Like they showed them eating. See, here we go, going off all on topic and carrying on, but you got to get this out. They showed like people don't understand. Now that's the way a werewolf movie is supposed to be. They eat people. They throwing heads at people. They ripping people apart. They just doing all kinds of stuff to people. You know this just as well as I do, right? And it was so amazing to see how the little twist was, right? Like, oh, that person was a plant. Yeah. We can't give away too much. We can't give away too much, right?
Right.
Then I would have to say the 1980 or the early 1990 Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have stories around zombies. My brothers used to watch zombie movies and then they chase me around the house going brains and they try to catch me. I was so afraid of zombies up until I was a full grown adult, like in my 30s.
Why are you so traumatized? Oh my God. Oh man. Thank you for this, man. This has been an amazing conversation. Thank you for
Yes.
the laugh. Thank you for sharing your top 3 horror movies with me. Thank you for sharing Moody Monster with us and your work, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is going to conclude this episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. Guys, if you have not already, do me a favor. Go and check out Jennifer. But if this is your first time tuning in and you enjoy conversations like this, please do me a favor. Head on over to that YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode, okay? Maybe these conversations aren't for you, but maybe you know somebody who can benefit from these conversations. Do me a favor, share it along with them. I'm not asking for your subscription if you don't think that I deserve it, but if you do, greatly appreciate it.
You deserve it.
Yeah, hey, I think we all do, right? You know what I'm saying? Because you guys make this possible. And with that being said, guys, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. I got to jump off. You guys already know it's been one of those days. I got to rip and run again. I love you guys. Thank you for always supporting us, helping, and allowing me to keep bringing these conversations to you guys. And Jennifer, again, we have to do this again. We got so much more that now that I know with sort of horror movies, you're like, that's a whole topic in itself. We can talk about horror movies and grief.
Yep. There's a great podcast from my friends called Horror Heals. Check that one out. Yeah.
Okay. You're gonna have to definitely let me know, guys. Go check out that one as well. And thank you guys for allowing us to keep doing this for you guys. Guys, have an amazing day. I love you, and we're going to see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Thank you.
You're welcome.